Hi, so for this session we'll be looking at equations where there are variables on both sides. And this can be tricky at first, but we'll do it step by step so it shouldn't be too hard at the end. So you can see with this equation, you notice there are x's on both sides. So an unknown variable on this side and on that side. But because x is the same variable, it's the same number, so we can solve it. If we had something like this, for example, 2y plus x equals 10, just say, and we weren't given any other information, we couldn't actually solve this because y is a different number to x. And how do we solve it? We can't. But up here, you notice that x and x are the exact same number, so we can solve this. So the first thing we have to do is somehow bring the x's together so we can simplify them. And just recap on some basic algebra skills. If we have, just say, 2x plus x, because it's the same variable, like 2 apples plus 1 apple, we know it equals 3x. So when I say simplify the x's, that's what I mean. So when the x's are together, we can do this. Right now, we've got 7x on this side and 5x on the other side. So we can't actually do it at the moment. But we can bring them together. So it's now up to you whether you want to bring the 7x to this side or the 5x to that side. Either way will give you the same answer, and with a later example I'll show you both ways and to prove that we get the same answer. Now usually what most people do is they decide to bring the x that's on this side to this side here because they like working with x on the left hand side. But you don't have to, because you also know how to rearrange and to switch the sides without changing anything. So really it's up to you. I like to avoid negatives, and I know if I bring the 7x to this side, I'll end up with a negative number. So I'm going to choose to bring the 5x to this side over here. And to do that, it's using the exact same, methods we used in the last session, and that is, what's the opposite of a positive 5 or positive 5x? Well, we have to minus 5x. If we minus 5x on this side, well, 5 minus 5x, it's 0. But of course, we know we have to do the same to the other side. And we end up with minus 5x on this side. And you can see how the 5x has now ended up on this side here next to the 7x. So let's just rewrite what we have. We have 7x, it's now minus 5x. The plus 4 is still there, equals, what's left on this side? The plus 10, or positive 10, or we can just write 10 like that. Now, before we solve it, we now have to simplify the 7x and the minus 5x. What's 7x minus 5x? Well, 7 minus 5 is just 2, and we happen to have 2x. The plus 4 is still there, and then we have equals 10. And now look how easy this is to solve. Instead of plus 4, now we have to minus 4 on this side, minus 4 on that side. That cancels out. That's a 0. So we end up having 2x equals, what's 10 minus 4? 10 minus 4 is 6. And our final step is to divide by 2, divide by 2. This cancels out. So x will equal 6 divided by 2 is 3. Okay? And if you substitute this back into the equation, so the x on this side, that's 3, and also the x on this side of that's 3, both equations, both sides should be equal. But we'll do more of that in another session. So with our next equation, we have 6x plus 4 equals 22 minus 3x. So straight away we see there are two unknown variables, one on this side and one on that side, which happen to be the same number. So we have to bring them together. So we can either bring the 6x to this side or the minus 3x to that side. I can see that the easiest way would be to bring the minus 3x to this side because I'll avoid negatives. And the opposite of minus 3x is to plus 3x and plus 3x on that side. So this will cancel out and we end up having 6x plus 3x plus 4 is still there, equals, we're left with a positive 22. And now simplify your x's. 6x plus 3x is 9x. And we end up having 9x plus 4 equals 22. And now all we have to do now is solve for x. We know there are two steps, the 9 and the 4 must go, and we know the plus 4 goes first because it's the furthest away from the x. So minus 4 and minus 4, which is the opposite of plus 4, that cancels out, and we end up having 9x equals 22 minus 4, that is 18. And last step is to divide by 9. I'll just change the colour, because we know here we have 9 times x, so divide by 9 and divide by 9. And finally, let's cross off, x equals 2. And that's our final answer. And like I said, try and substitute it into the equation to start practicing. Both sides should be equal if x is 2 here and x is 2 there. With our next example, you notice on this side we only have 2x, and here we have 7x minus 20. Now, I can bring the 7x to this side. I'd have to go minus 7x and minus 7x, but I'm going to bring the 2x to this side. By doing this, I'll avoid negatives, but I also want to try and do it another way to see if I can still solve this by bringing the x to this side. And also with this one, we have a positive 2x here. The opposite of positive 2x is to minus 2x. And of course, we must minus 2x on this side. And that all cancel out. And we know 2 minus 2x is 0. And that's what we actually end up having on this side. We have 0. Because there's nothing there, it's a 0. 0 equals, and we end up having 7x minus the 2x and minus 20. And this little step here confuses a lot of students. When they have a 0 on this side, they think they've made a mistake, but they actually haven't. Now, 7x minus 2x, that simplifies to 5x. So we still have 0 on this side. 0 equals 5x minus 20. Now, at this stage, if you don't like working with x on this side, you can rewrite it so the x is on the other side. And in our last session, I showed you how to do that. And basically, this equals 0, you put it there. Or just rewrite it. So we have 5x minus 20. 5x minus 20 equals 0. Equals 0. And we haven't changed anything. We've just switched it. And now there are two more steps involved. We have a minus 20 and a 5. And we know the minus 20 goes away first. So plus 20 and plus 20 on this side. That cancels out. And we have 5x equals 0 plus 20 is just positive 20. And our final step is to divide by 5. Divide by 5. That cancels out. So x will equal 20 divided by 5 is 4. And there we go. With example 4, you notice that there are brackets on both sides. And I forgot to do in the other session an example with brackets. But basically, whenever you see brackets, your first step is to get rid of them by expanding. And using your algebraic skills, to get rid of the brackets, we know in between the 5 and the bracket, there's an invisible times. So the 5 gets multiplied, in this case, with the 5x, and also that 2, which is actually negative 2, and same thing on this side. And you can use arrows to help you with that. And 5 times 5x, well, 5 times 5 is 25, and the x just sits there. Take away 5 times 2 is 10, so negative 10. Equals 5 times 3x is 15x, and 5 times 4 is a positive 20. So once your brackets are gone, you just solve this as you normally would, and we know our next step is to bring the x's together. And I'm going to bring the 15x to this side, so everything stays positive. So opposite of positive 15x is to minus 15x, so that cancels out, and minus 15x. So we end up with, well, 25x minus 15x is going to give us 10x, and then we still have minus 10 equals, on this side we have 20 left. So that 10x, all we did was went 25x minus 15x. I didn't write it out again because I haven't got much room. And now our next step is to get rid of which 10, this one here or this one? Well, the minus 10. And the opposite of minus 10 is to plus 10 on both sides. That cancels out. So we have 10x equals 20 plus 10 is 30. Final step, we've got 10 times x. Opposite of times is to divide by 10 and divide by 10. That cancels out. And our final answer, well, 30 divided by 10 will be left with x equals 3. I'll just squeeze the answer here because I couldn't fit it on the bottom. And that's our final answer. Now with our last example, look, equations like this can't actually get harder than this when it comes to linear equations, and we have a combination of things. One, we have to expand the brackets, and then we have to simplify first, and then bring the y's together. So first step, let's expand our brackets and get rid of them. So 4 times over there, and we've got 6 over here. So the arrows we know are saying 6 times the 3y and the minus 3. And the same on this side. You notice there's a minus 4 out here and a plus 20. So they'll come in our next step. So first of all, we'll expand this. So we end up with 4 times 4y is 16y. Positive, so plus 4 times 5 is 20. And you notice this minus 4, it's still there. Don't forget that minus 4. Equals 6 times 3y, well, we end up having 18y minus 6 times 3 is 18. And don't forget that plus 20. So plus 20, I'll just squeeze it in. Okay, now your next step is to simplify anything you can on either side. You notice we have positive 20 minus 4 and a minus 18 plus 20. So we'll simplify those first before we bring the y's together. So 16y on this side stays the same. What's 20 minus 4? Well, positive 20 minus 4 is positive 16. So plus 16 equals 18y is still there, but minus 18 plus 20. So using your negative number skills, minus 18 plus 20, the difference is 2, and it will be a positive 2 because we go into the positive end. And now that that's simplified, we can finally bring our y's together. And I'll bring the 18y to this side. We will end up with a negative value, but we need to practice doing that too. So the opposite of plus 18 is to minus 18y. That's now a 0. It's gone from that side. But of course we have, minus 18y. So that's a minus 18y. I'll just write it out again. So we have 16y. That's a minus 18y. Minus 18y. Plus 16 is still there. Equals, that's now gone from here. So we have a positive 2 on that side. 16y minus 18y. So be careful with your negative numbers. 16 minus 18 will leave us with a negative 2y. Plus 16 is still there. So plus 16 equals 2. So I'll just rub off some from the top so we have some more room. And I'll rub this bit out too. And you should have this written down anyway as part of your notes. So we have minus 2y plus 16 equals 2. I just copied our last step. Now, y is still not by itself. We're almost there. There are 2 more steps. That minus 2 and that plus 16 have to go. Which one goes first? We know it will be the plus 16 because it's the furthest away. So we minus 16 on this side. That cancels out. Minus 16 on that side. Please be very careful with your negatives. So we still have minus 2y equals 2 take away 16. Straight away you know you are going to have a negative value because 2 is smaller and we are subtracting a larger number. The difference between 16 and 2 is 14. So we end up having a negative 14. It's 14, 15, 16. Okay? But it's negative because we're in the negative end. And our final step is to divide by negative 2 and divide by negative 2. Why do we divide by negative 2? Because that negative 2 is joined to the y by an invisible times. So we're not saying 2 take away y, we are saying negative 2 times y. That cancels out. And our final answer, I'll just rub this bit out. Oops, sorry, that's not the rubber. Just so it looks nice and neat and consistent. we end up having y equals, now what's negative 14 divided by negative 2? Two negatives make a positive. 14 divided by 2 is 7, and there's our final answer. And once again, you can substitute this into the equation when y is positive 7 to see if both sides equal. Thank you.